Hello friends, welcome to In the Studio with Pyramid Dye Works. I am Liz, aka Pyramid Dye Works. I am coming to you from my home outside of Taos, New Mexico in the southwestern United States. You can find me on Instagram, BlueSky, and Etsy as Pyramid Dye Works. I am a knitter and a natural dyer, and this is where I talk about all of the things that I make. It is March 1st today, and I have officially failed at my New Year's resolution this year. My resolution had been to record a podcast every 2 weeks. I have failed. I did two on time-ish. And then this time, life happened one week. I got a nasty cold the next week. It's still lingering. I'm going to have to edit out a lot of coughing, I'm sure, and I might sound a little nasally. I do apologize. I also had a dead phone for extended periods of time, which I realize sounds a little bit silly. Long story short, I have one cell phone charger cable because I have one phone, right? And I recently got a new to me car where my phone actually works in my car, which is really nice. But then I was like taking my cable with me whenever I was like driving somewhere so I could charge my phone or whatever in the car. And I misplaced it twice. On different occasions. And so my phone was just like dead for a few days. Because I live outside of a small town. Only place to get a cell phone charger cable would be at Walmart. If I ordered it on Amazon, they do not deliver to people's houses here. The post office doesn't deliver to people's houses here. You have to go into town to go to the post office to get anything. So ordering for Amazon was like not really the other option because that still would have taken days and I still would have had to go into town, like just get one that's already here, right? Then I bought the wrong cable at Walmart one time. I had to go back again. Also, I live outside of town and I'm like a mile and a half down a dirt road. So if I don't have to go into town every day, I'm not going to, or I'm going to like combine my trips. So it was just like, well, I'm just not going to have a phone for a few days, right? That's fine. And honestly, it was great. I could still get my text messages like on my computer. I couldn't get them when I was out and about, but honestly, that was fine. I couldn't doom scroll before bed, and in the morning, I would just read a book before bed. And then I would snuggle with my dogs in the morning and just get out of bed and start my day. I highly recommend it. Unplug your phones, let them die, and enjoy the life that you are in right now. I have a little smoothie I made. It feels good in my throat. I've been coughing so much. Oh, God. Yeah, so it was nice to be able to regulate my connection to the news a little bit and not be able to just pick up my phone and see what's going on at a moment's notice. It was much more deliberate. Like I'm checking in on the news, like I'm watching PBS NewsHour, or like I'm checking the headlines on the computer, but there was no doom scrolling for a minute, and it was really nice. I doom scrolled when I woke up this morning, and I regret it already. So anyway, I'm mostly healthy. I have a charged phone, and I have a lot of things that I've been working on. So since it's been a minute, yeah, let's dive into this gigantic pile of whips. I have too many whips now. I cast something else on. I haven't finished anything. I have got to stop doing this. And I have another sweater like in the wings, ready to go. So I need to start finishing some things. First off, I'm going to show you what I'm working on furiously right now, because I really wanted this to be done in February. That had been my goal. It is now March 1st. It is not done. It is not close to being done. It is my open vest from Thea Coleman. And last time I was just partway through the body. Now, oh, look at this. It's so cute. Look at this adorable thing. Oh my God, I love it. So I am working my way up the back right now. I still have 3 or 4 inches to go on the back before I can join the shoulders, and then I have to do ribbing around the armholes, but it has this integrated neckline that is the cable. So I'm very excited about this. I just want it to be done though. I took this to a stitch-in bitch last night. I worked on it furiously this morning, and I have my regular knit group tomorrow, and I will take this there then, and hopefully that means I will be done with it within the week. That is the goal. So the yarn I'm using on this is really beautiful. It's got this amazing color variation. It's such a nice heather. I love heathered yarns. I hope that it's picking it up on the camera. But there's all sorts of variation in the color in this. Whenever you get up close to it, it's like almost iridescent. There's like purples and blues and greens in it. It's very, very pretty. And it is stuck down here between my feet. Kelburn Woolen's Scout. The colorway is Blue Heather. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna have this whole skein left over because I still have this much in the cake that I'm working off of, which is a little bit disappointing because I ended up choosing this project because I didn't think I had enough yarn for a full sweater. There's a cat that's about to walk in front of you. It's Conan. He's come to say hi. Hi. Oh, Conan. Hi. He's such a sweet orange boy. Orange boys. Oh my God, you can like see how dusty he is. He's been outside rolling in the dirt. His white is like almost orange too. All right, Conan. Come on. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because I picked this vest pattern because I didn't think I was going to have enough yarn for a full sweater. But now that I've gotten through this, I'm like, I have a whole other skein. I could have knit sleeves. And this has cables all over it, which means it eats yarn. Yeah. So I'm like a little bit bummed about that. But it's also a whole skein, so I can always like destash it or do a hat or something. I have some leftover blue, like navy blue merino silk from Knitting for Olive because of a mistake in an order. So I might end up like pairing that for a hat or something at some point. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna have an entire skein left over. But I'm really excited about this vest, particularly for spring. Springtime is the time for vests. And it is just so flippin' cute. It's so cute. Love, love. So it also does this cool thing because it has the braid along the edge. So that braid actually continues all the way around the back neck. So it just had you knit these little cable strips at the top that are eventually going to go around the neckline, and you'll like sew it down along the back. So it'll be a continuous cable that goes all the way around the neckline. Very, very cool. I've never done a technique like this, so I'm excited about that. Something new. Yeah, so that's whip number 1. I am hopeful that this will be done within the week. Oh my God. There's so many bags on this table. Jesus Christ, guys. Picking one at random. Picking a bag at random. Last time I was working on some socks, and I said that I hoped I would be done with the next sock and started on the second sock. And I am. Yay. I'm not as far along as I had hoped because generally I just knit socks during Zoom meetings. And I'm just doing like a 3x1, so it's real easy to just be mindless about it, right? But the last few weeks, we had President's Day, which like messed up my regular meeting schedule and like meetings got canceled. And then I had another Zoom meeting that ended up being in person. So I just haven't had as much online meeting time to like work on socks. but they'll get there. And I talked about this before. I don't love this color. I really don't. But I really wanted to work with this yarn, which is Mondim from Retrosario Pomar. It's Portuguese yarn. It's a non-superwash sock yarn, which I've been wanting to try for a long time. So whenever I finally saw it in person, I bought this whenever I was back in Portland, Oregon last year for the Rose City Yarn Crawl. And whenever I saw it in person, I went to get some, and this was like the best color that they had that I could tolerate. And then I also have the contrasting brown for the heels, toes, and cuffs, which is the same brown that's like in there, right? So I'm definitely gonna have leftovers. I'll have to make a second pair somehow to use up the yarn. Yeah, the only other thing to say about this is I didn't really think ahead because it's a non-superwash sock yarn, which means it will inherently felt a little bit. That's just gonna be the nature of it, right? So what I really should have done was knit the foot just a little bit longer than I normally do, maybe like extra ½ inch or something, to account for the shrinkage after you've worn it for a while and, you know, the sole of the foot starts to felt a little bit. It'll naturally kind of shrink the foot. And I didn't think about that whenever I placed my heel on these. I just put them where I normally put them. So there's a decent chance at some point I might have to rip the toe off and extend the foot of the sock just a little bit and put the toe back on. I'm not sure if I should just do it or if I should wait until it doesn't fit me. And I'm not sure if I should knit the foot longer on the second sock or just knit them both the same. I'm not sure. I'm worried that these are not going to fit me after I wear them for a little bit because I didn't account for the non-superwash shrinkage. I did have a friend who has used this yarn before tell me, oh, did you knit the foot extra long? I was like, oh, no, I didn't. And she was like, oh yeah, it will shrink. It's like, okay. So I don't know. I'll probably go ahead and knit this foot a little bit extra long and like pray for the best. I don't know. Thoughts? Comments? Concerns? Anybody? Yeah. So, you know, socks are always there. This one. It's my porcelain sweater. The body is done. Look at that. I think last time I was like on the second stripe. Gorgeous. It has been blocked. The body has been blocked. I went ahead and did that because I am steeking my armholes and then I will be picking up stitches around for the arm, for the sleeve. That's what it's called. There's my little steek there. Yeah, so this pattern calls for you to knit the Colorwork flat for this top band because it is a drop shoulder construction. And I said, that's bonkers, I'm not doing that. So I added in a steek so that I could knit the top and the round. So now I just have to cut these things open and pick up. I am contemplating, because this yarn is so dang sticky, it is Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in marzipan and deep petroleum blue. Very pretty. And Isair Tivini, which is lace weight, also a Danish yarn. They're both Danish. Yes, Danish. Very rustic, beautiful. I'm really loving it. But yeah, it sticks to itself like nothing else. If I even try and tink back a few stitches, it's like ripping it apart. So I'm at a little bit of a standstill where I'm like trying to decide how I want to cut open my steeks. So I had somebody suggest maybe just do a little bit of needle felting along the edge just to confirm that nothing is going to go awry, which I thought, oh, that's a great idea, except I don't have any needle felting equipment, which means I'm stuck. And that's a bummer. So I'm still contemplating just cutting the dang thing, like without any reinforcement. I don't think it needs it. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Like if I cut it open and I just tack down the edges, like right after I cut it, it's fine, right? It's going to be fine, right? Right? What do you guys think? Tell me if I'm crazy, but I don't think that anything is going to happen if I just cut up the sleeves. I think everything is going to stay in place and I will have no regrets. What do you think? Yeah, so I really want to be done with this because it is getting to be spring hardcore here. This is like the year without a winter for northern New Mexico. Somehow the snow went to the north of us and to the south of us, but like never hit us this year. And it is sunny and warm and lovely outside. And I really would like to be able to wear this a little bit. And, you know, whenever I was knitting this, I figured I'll probably finish it like mid-March or something, which still feels doable, right? 2 weeks for 2 sleeves. That's reasonable. And generally speaking, it stays pretty cold here for a while. Like a mid-May freak snowstorm is not that freaky here. Like that happens pretty regular. You know, generally April and May are kind of all over the place, but you'll still get like cold snaps. But like we're already in the 50s and 60s and it's just there. And it's March 1st. So yeah, I want to get this thing done so that I can wear it before next fall. I mean, the nice thing is this is like 2 lace weights held together. So it's very lightweight and very fluff. So I think, I mean, even though it is like mohair and silk and wool, it won't necessarily be like too hot. Especially for like in the evening as the sun is going down or after the sun has gone down. Like this will be perfect for, yeah, spring evenings at least. I'm pretty sure in my last episode I described that this sweater was turning out too big and I needed to tear it out. It is the Tuku sweater from the Petite Knitter. I am knitting it out of Gilead from, who is this from? What's their name? De Rerum Natura. And they are based in France. So the last time you saw this was almost a finished sweater. I had the body essentially done. I hadn't done the ribbing on the bottom yet. I was worried I was going to run out of yarn, so I was being cautious. And I had knit almost in 1 entire sleeve. Then I decided to try it on, and I discovered that it did not fit in many ways. I will admit that I thought I knew better than the pattern, and I tried to make some modifications that clearly backfired. But mostly, my problem was that my gauge swatch lied. So I ended up ripping the whole thing out, and I have started over. So basically, after some thought and some maths, I realized that, yes, my gauge swatch lied. My gauge swatch lied because I didn't make it big enough. So really, it's my fault. Also, this pattern calls for DK, and I'm using worsted, which is affecting my gauge, clearly. So basically, this is my swatch. It's a naughty, tiny swatch. I did the color work in the round. It seemed like that was enough. It wasn't. It lied. This was still too small of a circumference. I was still tightening up my tension. And my gauge lied. That's just straight up what it is. So I remeasured my swatch and everything, and I was like, it's still like, the math is not mathing here. Until I said, what if I assume that my Colorwork gauge on the swatch is not actually accurate to what my Colorwork gauge is on the larger canvas of the sweater? And if I mentally make that adjustment and I redo the math, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I was doing the math off of the gauge from the swatch, and I was like, I mean, with that stitch count, I should have had like an extra 3 inches of positive ease over like what the pattern said, but I had like 12 inches of extra positive ease over what I wanted. Like, it was insane. And it's like, that math is not mathing. So then I was like, well, what if my gauge is actually more relaxed than this? And it's lying, because I did this on a small circumference and it's not that big of a swatch. I kind of tried to fudge it and do as little as possible. And whenever I made that adjustment and said, okay, what if I just like extend that a little bit? All of a sudden I was like, oh, there's that 12 inches. There's that 12 inches. Okay. So now I am going off of, I of course didn't swatch again. Why would I do that? That's silly. I recast on 2 sizes smaller. And I'm changing some of my needle sizes that I was using because I was trying to be smarter than the pattern, and that wasn't working out for me there. The other thing with this pattern is it actually has bust shaping, optional bust shaping written into it, which I usually add into patterns anyway because I do have a larger size bust. But again, I was trying to be smarter than the pattern. And I had just put more fabric on the front of the sweater than in the back whenever I had separated for sleeves, because it's circular yoke and I have more space on the front than in the back. So I tried to adjust for the bust size on my own by doing that. Now that I've gone back, I've gone down 2 sweater sizes. I'm going to follow the pattern. I'm not going rogue anymore. I'm going to put the sleeves where they say to put the sleeves. This is how far I am. Again, I'm back in it now. Oh boy. I'm enjoying knitting it again. Like, I'm not bummed about it, honestly. Like, it's a very enjoyable knit. This yarn is fantastic. Also, like, unraveled and reknit, no problems. It's such a nice yarn. Like, it's not remembering the crimp, like, at all. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't knit up for that long and it never got blocked in the sweater shape. But yeah, this yarn is knitting back up just fine. Yeah, so I'm through the first 2 motifs. There's one more large motif that's after this, and then I will split for sleeves and all of that. So I am going to follow the pattern this time, and I am going to add in the optional bust shaping, since I have gone down 2 sizes and this should fit more snugly. That's the plan. I'm not prioritizing this project at this point, since I did have to rip it back. I am assuming that this will be ready for next fall. So it's going to be, slowly worked on. It's not my priority project. My priority project right now is the vest and then the porcelain. And then if I have extra time, I can work on this. Except for that other project that I also just cast on that we'll get to next. Anyway, this is a great lesson in making a bigger swatch, particularly for Colorwork. Knit a bigger swatch, y'all. Just do it. Don't be like me. Don't have to rip out an entire sweater. So this next one is a new cast-on. And I have had this in my queue for over a year. I have had the yarn for over a year, and I finally cast on. Yeah. Just the neckline so far. I've started into the short rows, but I'm not very far. So I am knitting, oh, I thought I had the picture really easy. The Tulsa tee by Rebecca Clow of the Cray Band. It's a DK weight t-shirt, knit at a pretty loose gauge. It's a knit up on size US 8s, and it's basically built for modifications. So I'm gonna make mine striped. I have these 2 colors. This sort of sagey green was a gift. Here's my swatch. You can see them together. Oh, it looks so nice. It's gonna be cute. So this sagey green, my dad and his wife got for me whenever they were in Paris a couple of years ago. It is this. Bergerie de France. It's merino wool, 100% merino. Oh yeah, it's superwash, but it's the Okotex. So it's like environmentally friendly superwash or something. I have to be honest, I don't love it. This is like not the yarn that I would have bought. It's like a 10 ply or something. You can see any of them. I'm sure not. Well, maybe I'll try and do like a close-up or something. Anyway, it's got like 4 or 5 2-plies plied together, which makes it feel very, very soft to the touch, but it is not my preferred. I prefer a more rustic yarn. I do. It just feels better. It's not as splitty. Okay, I just had a whole phone storage issue situation happen. So hopefully I can remember where I was. I do believe I was talking about the Tulsa tee that I have just cast on for. I have a neckline. And I am using this French merino and also double Sunday from Sadness Garden. Yes, so this was a gift. Whenever I checked the yardage, I didn't quite have enough for a garment, so I had to pick up something to hold with it. So I'm gonna do stripes. So hopefully this will all work out well. It's gonna be a nice, fun spring tee. It shouldn't take that long to knit because it is knit up on size US 8 needles. So I'm hoping that I'll have it done this month. That's the goal, in March. The other thing about the Tulsa tee is that it also comes with optional bust shaping. That was an addition that Rebecca did to the pattern after it was released. And I had wanted to knit the Tulsa tee whenever she released it, just because it's a nice basic tee. And I thought that seems great. But then she said that she was gonna go back and rework the pattern with bust shaping. So I was like, well, I have to wait until that happens. So this is me. F cup, start here. You calculate it by the difference between your high bust and your full bust. So generally speaking, like with standardized sewing patterns and everything, the general consensus is that they add in 2 inches for bust shaping, which is a B cup. That's like standard sizing, right? So if you have a bigger differential than 2 inches or a smaller differential than 2 inches, then you might want to adjust your shaping. So I have a 5-inch differential, which puts me in her F cup instructions, which is between 4 and 6 inches difference between your high bust and your full bust. So your high bust is like if you measure right under your underarms, like right at the top. So you're not at your fullest there, but it's the start. And then your full bust is the measurement across at the fullness of your bust. So I have a 5-inch difference. Standard sizing is a 2-inch difference. So I am adding in shaping. And it is a different kind of shaping that I've done before. I usually have done short rows for my bust shaping in the past. And I assumed that that's what this pattern was going to do as well. So I was a little bit like, oh, but I want to do stripes. And with the short rows, then you're going to end up with like the stripes like ending along your short row line, which I was like, oh, that's fine. Like if you get a striped sewn sweater that has a dart in it, like you have the lines kind of come together along the dart. And I'm like, that's what it is. That's what it's going to look like. And I was okay with that. But then I realized she was actually much more clever than that, because she wrote this pattern to be so highly customizable with details, adding texture or stripes or whatever. She worked out the bust shaping without short rows. So you're actually adding in the extra fabric in the raglan. So there's going to be, I'm assuming, I haven't read all the details, but there's going to be more increases along the front raglan than on the back for me. And then after all of that is done, there's going to be basically like princess seams underneath that take that space back out, which means that the stripes will be totally uninterrupted. Very cool. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. It's going to be another sort of new shaping technique to me. Yeah. So everything I have, save the Tuku sweater, the orange guy who's getting reworked, should be done this month. That's the goal, done by the end of March. All of those should be done by the end of March. And then I can cast on new things. So yeah, I am definitely like in a finish it mentality right now because I'm feeling overwhelmed by the amount of garments that I have in progress at the same time. I have also been weaving. Last time around, I showed you at least one of these scarves. I know I showed you this one. I have been taking my naturally dyed yarns, which I sell under Pyramid Dye Works. You can find me at Etsy. And I have been weaving scarves out of the yarn. I am intending to actually take photographs and list these as well. I haven't quite gotten there yet. I still have fringe to deal with. I've done half my fringe on this one. Yeah, so I showed this one to you guys last time. It is dyed with sagebrush and indigo. I have done 2 of these. And they are dyed with cochineal and indigo. It's just one color. It was a very like variegated batch of yarn that honestly, I was not real happy with it. Like the dye just did not apply evenly and I didn't want to sell it. So I was like, oh, you know what? I bet that might be like really rad in a scarf. And it is. So I'm glad I'm like finding a use for this yarn that I wasn't super happy with the dye job. And then I also had one that did the same variegated thing. I was having issues with my indigo that last fall, obviously, because this happened to a few different batches. But I'm finding a great use for this yarn now. Like how cool is that, how it works up in the weave? So this one is dyed with Osage orange and indigo. I'm pretty sure. It's been a while. But so much fun, very satisfying. I have a lot of tassels to weave. But yeah, I'm cranking out some scarves, y'all. Good times. So like I said, this has kind of been the year without a winter. So I should be getting back out into the dye studio soon. It was on my list last weekend to get the studio cleaned up and ready to go for this year, but that's when like the cold hit me like fully, and I just sat on the couch and binge watched TV all weekend instead. So I still have a bit of prep work to do outside to get everything cleaned up and ready to go for this year. I have a little bit of yarn, undyed yarn, left over from last year's batch that I can at least get going with, but I do need to order some more yarn. I am getting my festival schedule ready for this year. I will be vending in June in Arroyo Seco, New Mexico at the first annual Seco Fiber Fest. And I will be vending in October at the Taos Wools Fest again as well. Those are the 2 that are like solid on the books. I've like paid my fee, so I'm there. And I have a couple others that I'm looking at, but I haven't registered for yet. I will keep you posted. But yeah, June sounds kind of far off, but it's really not. So I need to start getting things in order and getting the dye pots going again soon. So I think one of the first things I'm going to do in the dye studio is get some walnuts fermenting. So I harvested a bunch of walnuts from the walnut tree in front of the Fetchin House Taos Art Museum last fall. More phone storage issues. I better stop talking because clearly this is going on too long. Anyway, I want to get some walnuts fermenting and do some walnut dye on some of the skeins I have from last year. And also, I'm working on a sewing project, and I have discovered that I don't know how much fabric to buy for projects. I'm sewing a dress. I'm modifying the dress to be not as long. It's like it has 2 tiers on the bottom normally, but I'm only doing 1 tier. So I ended up buying a little bit less fabric than it called for because of that. bad idea. So this is all the fabric that I have left. I cut the pattern pieces out yesterday, and I had to piece together the back panel, which I'm going to go grab right now, because I didn't have enough contiguous fabric. I also didn't have enough fabric to cut out the facing on the neckband or the pockets, which I can do those in a contrasting color, which is where I'm getting with this. So this is the back panel of the skirt, you guys. I had to piece it together out of like multiple pieces of fabric. You can see there's even like a square up here in the corner because I didn't even have enough to like cover the whole panel. You can see it better from the back with all the seams. So it's like all these strips that I have sewn together to make up the piece that I need for the back panel of the skirt of this dress. It's gonna be fine, right? It's gonna be fine. I'm not mad about the vertical seams. I'm pretty annoyed by this little square that I had to add at the top to like fill it out. Because the vertical seams, I feel like you can kind of get away with like, oh, it's a design choice. But yeah, that weird little square at the top, not quite so much. So I have all of my main pieces cut out, even if they had to be pieced. They're all cut out and ready to go. But now I need facing and pockets. So pockets, I can definitely use like whatever contrasting fabric I have in my stash. I'm not super concerned about that. But the facing, I was like, you're still gonna see that kind of. It's still gonna end up being visible. I don't want it to be super contrasting. I'd like it to kind of blend. And the other thing is I bought this at Joann like a few months ago. And as you probably know, all of the Joanns are going out of business and shutting down. So I don't think I can get more of this. And I don't know what it was anyway. So my plan is I have saved a bunch of old bed sheets to use as muslin fabric or as the fabric for like pillow forms if I'm making my own pillows or whatever. So I think I'm going to take some of that and I'm going to dye it in walnut. And I don't normally dye with cellulose fibers. I usually only dye with protein-based fibers, which is the difference between animal-based or plant-based, like a wool from a sheep or cotton from a plant, right? Like bamboo or whatever. It's a totally different chemical process. The dyes take differently. You have to prepare the fabrics differently, prepare the dye baths differently in a lot of cases, depending what kind of fiber you're dyeing, if it's plant-based or if it's animal-based. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me dyeing on cotton, but walnut should be easy peasy. It has so many tannins in it already that it basically acts as its own mordant. So you don't really have to prep all that much. I'm going to have to see like what I need to do with the cotton, and they are old bed sheets. So I might need to like scour them real good first, but that's kind of my plan. And then I can use that as my facing and maybe as my pocket linings as well. And I know it's not going to get like this dark and this like yellowy warm. Walnut on wool is like the best chocolate brown you've ever seen in your life. So I'm guessing walnut on cotton is going to be a little bit lighter than that, which I think would be great as lining fabric for this. So that's the plan for fixing my mistake of not buying enough fabric for my sewing projects. Yes, as I was piecing together that back panel yesterday, I just kept saying to myself, this is a learning process. Now you know, always buy that extra half yard. Just do it. Just buy the extra half yard. Don't try and skimp to save yourself $5. Like, just buy the thing. I'm not an experienced sewist, so I don't have that sort of gauge of how much material I actually need for a project because I haven't done that many projects yet. So lesson learned, buy the extra fabric. So guys, that's everything. That is everything. And my phone keeps running out of space, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up and deal with that. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to be back again in 2 weeks. I am not going to get sick. I am not going to lose my cell phone charger, and I'm going to get extra storage somehow figured out. Or a new camera situation. I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Keep crafting and keeping sane. I love you all. I'll see you soon.